There's a stretch of old Route 66 in western Arizona that truckers avoid after midnight. Most will pull over at the Love's travel stop in Kingman and wait till dawn before continuing. They'll blame it on fatigue or engine troubles, never admitting the real reason. But I know why. And after what happened to me last October, I won't drive that road at night either. I'm not some superstitious fool. I've been hauling freight across the country for 23 years. I've seen mirages on sun-baked highways and pulled over for more than my share of hitchhikers. Until last year, I would have laughed if you told me about phantom riders or highway ghosts. I was making a Denver to LA run, carrying industrial refrigeration parts that were already 3 days late. A jackknifed semi near Flagstaff had backed up I-40 for hours. By the time traffic cleared, I was looking at missing my delivery window unless I drove straight through the night. My dispatcher was breathing down my neck, so I decided to take the old highway, Route 66, to avoid any more interstate delays. It was about 2 a.m. when I passed through Kingman. The moon hung full and heavy over the desert landscape, painting everything in silver and shadow. My thermos was empty, and the radio stations had dissolved into static, leaving me alone with the hum of tires on asphalt and the occasional glint of an animal's eyes from the scrubby landscape. That's when I saw her. She was standing at the edge of a curve, thumb out, a small duffel bag at her feet. My high beams caught her denim jacket, her long dark hair stirring in the desert breeze. I almost didn't stop. Company policy and common sense both advise against picking up strangers, especially on deserted roads in the middle of the night. But something about the slump of her shoulders made me ease off the accelerator. She looked tired in a way I recognized deep in my bones. I pulled over about 20 yards ahead of her. In my side mirror, I watched her pick up her bag and walk toward my rig. Her gait was uneven, like she'd been walking for miles. I reached over and unlocked the passenger door, giving myself a mental reminder to keep the conversation light, the driving focused.
Thanks for stopping,
She said as she climbed in. Her voice was raspy, like she'd been breathing dust.
Not many people do these days.
Up close, she looked to be in her early 30s. Her face was pretty but weathered, with faint lines around her eyes that crinkled when she smiled. She wore no makeup, and her fingernails were short, practical. Nothing about her seemed threatening.
Where are you headed?
I asked, pulling back onto the empty highway.
Los Angeles.
She said, settling her duffel bag between her feet.
Going to see my sister. She just had a baby.
I nodded. LA was my destination too. We fell into the easy conversation of strangers who don't expect to see each other again. Neutral topics, nothing too personal. She told me her name was Marie, said she was a nurse but was between jobs. I talked about my kids back in Nebraska and the audiobook I'd been listening to. Normal stuff. About 20 minutes into the drive, I noticed the temperature dropping in the cab. October nights in the desert can get cold, but this was different, a damp, penetrating chill that made my knuckles ache on the steering wheel. I turned up the heat.
You mind if I smoke?
Marie asked. Before I could answer, I caught a whiff of cigarette smoke, though I hadn't seen her light one.
Actually, I'd rather you didn't,
I said, glancing over at her. That's when I noticed the first strange thing. Her clothes were different. When I'd picked her up, she'd been wearing a denim jacket over a white t-shirt. Now she had on what looked like a faded floral blouse with pearl snap buttons, the kind my grandmother used to wear. I blinked hard, wondering if the overnight driving was getting to me.
Everything okay?
She asked, tilting her head. Water dripped from her hair onto the seat, though there hadn't been rain for weeks.
Yeah, fine.
I muttered, turning back to the road.
Just tired.
Marie started telling me about her sister in LA, how they'd grown up in Flagstaff, how she was trying to make it to the hospital before her nephew was born. As she spoke, her accent changed subtly, taking on a twang I couldn't place. The digital clock on my dashboard flickered, the numbers scrambling before resetting to 2:47 a.m. The road ahead stretched empty across the dark landscape. We were in one of the most desolate sections of the route, miles from the nearest town. My headlights caught a faded billboard advertising a motor lodge that I knew had been demolished in the 90s.
You ever been to the Blue Swallow?
Marie asked, as if reading my thoughts.
Best little motel on Route 66. My boyfriend and I stayed there on our way to California. Summer of '72.
I frowned. The Blue Swallow was in New Mexico, not Arizona. And if she'd stayed there in 1972, Marie would be in her 70s, not 30s.
I think you're confused.
I said slowly.
The Blue Swallow's about 500 miles east of here.
Marie laughed, a hollow sound that seemed to echo in the cab.
Oh, honey, I know exactly where I am. I've been on this road a long time.
When I looked at her again, her appearance had changed completely. Her dark hair was styled in a bouffant with a scarf tied around it. Her blouse had shifted to a fitted dress with a pattern that hadn't been fashionable since the Kennedy administration. The duffel bag was now a vintage hard-sided suitcase. My throat went dry.
Who are you?
I managed to ask. Marie turned to face me fully. In the green glow of the dashboard lights, her skin looked waxy, her eyes too dark.
Just a girl who needed a ride,
She said.
just like all the others.
My hands gripped the wheel so tight, my fingers went numb.
What others?
All the Marys,
She said, as if this explained everything.
all the Janets and Susans and Brendas. We're all just trying to get where we're going.
The cab had grown so cold, I could see my breath. Outside, the night seemed to press against the windows like something solid. The headlights illuminated a green mileage sign that read Los Angeles 287, though I knew we were at least 400 miles from LA.
You're not real.
I whispered. She sighed, a sound like wind through dry grass.
I'm as real as this road. As real as all the men who've offered me rides since 1957.
1957.
I repeated.
The year I died.
She said matter-of-factly.
About 5 miles up ahead, actually. Right where Coyote Wash crosses under the highway. My boyfriend was driving too fast. He'd been drinking in Kingman. The car went through the guardrail. He walked away. I didn't.
The story hit me like a physical blow. Everyone who grew up around these parts knew about the wash. A sudden dip in the landscape where flash floods had been known to sweep cars right off the highway. There were always flowers there, though no one seemed to know who left them. Marie was watching me with those two dark eyes.
Usually I just ride along for a while, then disappear. A little scare for the driver, a little company for me. But you're different. You look like him, the boyfriend. When I saw your truck coming, I thought maybe the universe was finally giving me a chance to balance the scales.
My mouth went dry.
What does that mean?
Her hand touched my arm, ice cold through my sleeve.
It means you should have stopped in Kingman like the other truckers.
The steering wheel jerked under my hands, pulling hard to the right. I fought it, but it was like wrestling a living thing. Outside the windshield, I could see the wash coming up, a black cut in the landscape. The guardrail gleamed dully in my headlights. Marie's voice had dropped to a whisper.
I've waited so long for someone like you, someone who could take my place.
I stomped on the brakes, but the pedal went straight to the floor. The speedometer was climbing, 70, 80, 90. The steering wheel burned cold under my hands.
Please,
I gasped.
I've got kids.
Something flickered across her face, a moment of uncertainty. The truck shuddered as if passing through a wall of resistance. For a split second, I saw Marie as she must have been in the moment of her death, young and terrified, her face a mask of betrayal.
He said that too,
She whispered.
right before he swerved.
The truck hit something, a pothole or debris on the road, and lurched violently. Marie's form seemed to shatter like glass, fragments of her scattering into darkness before reforming. When she solidified, she looked different, smaller somehow, afraid.
I don't want to do this anymore.
She said, her voice suddenly young.
I'm so tired.
The wash was seconds away now, the guardrail rushing toward us. With a strength born of pure terror, I wrenched the wheel to the left. The truck skidded, tires screaming on asphalt. I felt the back end fishtailing, the weight of the trailer threatening to jackknife us. Then, impossibly, we were past the wash. The truck shuddered back under control. I brought it to a stop on the shoulder, my whole body trembling. When I looked over, the passenger seat was empty. No Marie, no duffel bag, no evidence anyone had been there at all. Just a lingering smell of cigarette smoke and something else, a floral perfume that reminded me of funeral homes. I sat there until dawn, unable to move, watching the sky lighten over the desert. When I finally pulled back onto the highway, I passed the spot where the wash ran under the road. Someone had placed fresh flowers by the guardrail, white lilies tied with a blue ribbon. I delivered my freight 8 hours late and took a week of unpaid leave after that run. Told my dispatcher I'd come down with food poisoning. What was I supposed to say? That I'd nearly been driven off the road by a ghost? I've done some research since then. Turns out there was an accident at Coyote Wash in April 1957. A young couple heading to Los Angeles, the man walking away with minor injuries, the woman pronounced dead at the scene. Her name was Marie Lafleur. She was 26, a nurse from Flagstaff on her way to visit her sister. The boyfriend claimed an animal ran in front of the car, causing him to swerve. No charges were filed. I still drive Route 66 sometimes, but never that stretch after dark. Last month, passing through Kingman in the daytime, I stopped at a diner and got to talking with a local. He mentioned the flowers at the wash, how they've been appearing for decades. Always lilies with a blue ribbon.
Strange thing,
He said, stirring his coffee.
about 10 years back, they found the boyfriend. He'd moved to Oregon, built a new life. Heart attack got him in his sleep. The funny thing was, the ME put time of death at exactly 2:47 a.m., and there was a blue ribbon clutched in his hand.
I didn't tell him about Marie. Didn't tell him how sometimes, driving late at night, I still catch the smell of cigarette smoke and floral perfume in my cab. Didn't tell him how I always stop now for every hitchhiker I see, hoping somehow to balance my own scales. Because that's the thing about the roads we travel. Sometimes we pick up more than just passengers. Sometimes the real journey isn't measured in miles, but in the ghosts we carry with us long after the ride is over.